So a couple videos ago, I talked about Alabama's biggest weakness going into the Miami Hurricanes football game, and which for the most part, I talked about how their secondary could definitely hold Alabama back later down the line against teams like LSU, Georgia, Clemson, the typical powerhouse teams. Nowadays these powerhouse teams, it's really all about the offense instead of just having that great defense. And Alabama's secondary hasn't been dominant probably since the 2016, or even you can even include the 2017 football season. So I really wanted, again, I went in depth with it. There was some people that agree with it. Matter of fact, there was a lot of people that agree with it. There were some people that did disagree with my stance on that. But I wanted to make this video because if I wanted to talk about Alabama's weakness, I do want to talk about their biggest strength, because Alabama has a lot of strengths. They have a lot of strengths going into the 2021 football season. And there's this one positional group that I really, really love that in a way could definitely bypass the secondary. I mean, we could potentially forget that the secondary even had a weakness at all thanks to this type of positional group. And that's really the linebacking group. I know some people will say, well, what about the edge rushers? What about the defensive line? Hell, if you look at the offensive side of the ball, there's a lot of strengths there. But I love this linebacking group. I love the experience. I love the youth, and I love the type of talent, the type of athleticism there that we've been missing for years. Even with the last 2 to 3 years, we've been lacking depth there. We've had talent, but we've been lacking depth. We've had the huge injury bug. And I'm going to knock on wood because hopefully the injury bug doesn't happen. But if everything can go fine going into that 2021 season, again, this linebacking group, which, again, you can make an argument with your Mike and your Will inside linebacking group, those are probably the two most important positions on the field, because those are your signal callers. These are guys that these are your biggest communicators. These are the guys that make sure that can make proper adjustments. These are the guys that make sure that everyone is on the right page. Maybe besides the guys back there in the secondary, but yeah, even set the guys in the secondary straight. So when I take a look at this linebacking position, I look at guys like Jalen Moody, who, even though hasn't had a lot of playing experience besides special teams, this is a guy that knows the defense. What has kind of been the biggest question mark about your linebacking position for years, especially when Pete Golding has taken over? It's, can these guys get the signals right? Because it's been confusing. This is a very complex defense. And Jalen Moody is probably the only guy, and we've heard tons of compliments for players, that this is the most intelligent player on the team. This is a dude that has a very, very high IQ. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but I compare him. He reminds me of Ben Boulware. He's in the same realm as a Pete Warner, as a James Skelski. Not the most athletic linebacker in the world, but a guy that has great IQ, and a guy that will rarely make mistakes when it comes to making adjustments and getting the correct calls from Pete Golding. So he's always a safe bet. Again, not a sideline-to-sideline guy, not the greatest athlete, but a guy that rarely will make those type of mistakes. And again, you can win national titles with those type of players. I mean, Clemson's been doing it for damn near years, especially with the James Skelskis and the Ben Boulwares. But besides him, if you don't want to go with him, there's Henry To'oTo'o. Here's a guy with the athletic upside, a guy that is a true linebacker. He is your prototypical NFL linebacker, standard NFL linebacker, sideline to sideline, great speed, great quickness, phenomenal instincts. He knows how to play the position. And again, a guy that's has been heavily sought after for years, even when he was in De La Salle in Concord, California. So when he's finally in the mix and he's finally there, you can either go with Jalen Moody, or you can go with the more athletic guy. You can go with the guy with the most upside, Henry To'oTo'o, that can play alongside, of course, Christian Harris. But even if, let's say, Jalen Moody or Henry To'oTo'o doesn't get the start, and this is going to be a long shot, but you have Deontay Lawson, a guy that played in that spring game, and he showed a lot. Now, he was more of a will. He played in the place of Christian Harris, but the fact that Jalen Moody was able to get the calls. He was able to make the calls, and Deontay Lawson barely had any trouble. I mean, he rarely had any trouble when it came to being in the right positions. He was in the right positions a lot of the times, and not to mention the IQ is there, the talent is there. You saw the athletic ability being shown on display you got to give that kid a lot of credit. And maybe not a guy that's going to get a lot of playing time right away as a true freshman, but if we're talking about years down the line as a true sophomore, potentially as a junior, this is a guy that could potentially take over your defense or probably will play that will position. With him, I mean, if you don't want to go with him, there's also Shane Lee. Shane Lee's a guy that played as a true freshman as a Mike. This is a guy that knows the defense by now. You know, he's a muscle hamster, but he's very similar to Jalen Moody. He knows the defense. Not the greatest athlete in the world, more of a thumper, but still, he is honestly another version or another safe bet, probably more of a backup option, but he's also included as well. So Alabama is deep, and I'd even mention guys like Jackson Braden, also can be included. Demoy Kennedy, who was also another a five-star athlete. You know, so your inside linebacking position, which was considered a weakness, let's say 2-3 years ago, it's now considered your biggest strength. Again, the most important part about it, guys, is the fact that these are your communicators. These are your signal callers. These are the guys that's part of that second line of defense. So huge. This is absolutely huge. Now, the one thing they do need to get right is covering the tight end position, whether if it's in zone coverage or whether if it's in man. They got absolutely they got torn apart against tight ends. They ranked 125th in the nation against the tight end, whether it was in zone or man. So they need to improve, and that's according to Pro Football Focus. So they need to improve in those specific areas. This is why I'm saying it's probably a little bit more realistic in Christian Harris, still as your will, and not really handing him the play calling duties. You don't want to pull a Mac Wilson. Having a guy that's uncomfortable and then you're forcing him in a spot that he just does not know. So Christian Harris as your will. Maybe Henry To'oTo'o, or maybe a guy. You could go safe and put Jalen Moody, a guy that knows the defense. That's what you can go, because that was going to be your starting linebacking position. That was going to be your starting linebacking core anyway, even if Henry T doesn't transfer. But even again, we don't know. We don't know who's going to start. We don't know who's going to be benched. But I will say this: I won't be shocked at all if we see during the season we could see rotations. That's one thing we've been missing. We've been missing rotations. We used to kind of rotate with our linebackers back in the day, especially at those inside linebacking positions. I would not be surprised at all if we start to see more rotational. If we start to see more rotations, especially, I do believe that that's also going to help the experience of the players later down the line. Not just the 2021 season, but the 2022 or even the following 2023 seasons. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I love this inside linebacking group. I think it's the best positional group in college football. And then not even then, you got the defensive line position, which is a very, very experienced there, including your edge rushers like Christopher Allen and Will Anderson coming on the outside. So overall wise, the front seven is arguably one of the best front sevens in all of college football. Again, I know I talked about the secondary, but the front seven could make up for kind of that lack of experience. Could give the secondary a little bit more time in order for them to finally get in there, gel together, and then they can become a really, really good group. So overall wise, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, share the video, and also subscribe. I have more college football content and more just sports content on the way. So make sure you guys, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on my social medias. I'll have those below the link below the description. And then, of course, also stay tuned to the community channels, because I also stay tuned to the community posts. I will continue to post there. But yeah, guys, Gent Sports, aka Gent 716. I will catch you guys later. Peace.